What's up guys, Smash Connoisseur here, and in today's video I'm going to be talking about the top 10 best sets in the history of Smash Ultimate. One rule I have for this video is I will never have multiple sets, like 2 or more, where it's the same combination of players. Like if it's MKLeo versus Gluto, that'll only ever happen one time. I won't have them fighting at Summit and then I'll also have them at Evo or something like that. It'll just be one of each matchup of players. Now let's get into it. First, at number 10, I picked Riddles versus Sonics at Collision. Some of you might remember this set, but essentially how it goes is Sonics actually took game 1 and 2 dominantly off of Riddles in the Kazuya versus Sonic matchup. And these were like brutal games. They would take a very long time. I believe one of them might have even been 3-stock. Like, it was bad. And then Riddles, he was really feeling bad about it, and he'd been playing Kazuya the whole tournament, so you know, I think he even said like his Terry was retired or something like that. Well, he was like, you know what, might as well try Terry before I give up. And he picks Terry and he 3-stocks him. And people are like, oh my god, like, you know, that's crazy. Then he beats him, I believe, fairly dominantly in game 4. So now we've got this game 5. At this point, Riddles has mastered the matchup so well that he goes up 3 stocks to 1, but Sonics begins to reverse 3-stock him. It comes really close at the end. And at the very end, he gets knocked like very far off the map to where it looks like he's about to die, but he lands on one of the platforms that's coming in, and then as it's moving away, he does a jab power dunk, and it pushes him just far enough to be able to take out Sonics and win the set in a reverse 3-0. And that just made it like this super sick redemption victory, and Riddles pops off and he's like jumping around with last, and it was just like a cool moment, and that was definitely a super hype tournament, and that added to it. At number 9, I have Spargo versus Void at Smash Ultimate Summit 6. Now, this set has a bit more kind of prominence and relevance than a lot of people realize, I think, because it's kind of like a storyline going full circle, which is the fact that when Spargo was first getting good, you know, Spargo lives in Tijuana, Mexico. But Mexico, for those of you who maybe don't know too much about geography, borders California. So Spargo had attended a couple California locals right before the end of the quarantine, and he had defeated Void at one of them. It was like his first big top player win, and you know, he would later start dominating like crazy right before all the quarantine ended up happening. And, you know, the fact that he ended up playing him again later, now that he's like at the very top of Smash, was already pretty cool to be able to see them rematch. And the set was super interesting too, because Void takes the first 2 games. And that was really shocking, and he was doing some crazy stuff. Like, you know, this was like peak Sheik gameplay. Sheik was back for the first time in a very long time. And people also love Spargo too, so it was just cool to see these 2 titans kind of clash. But the thing is that, you know, Spargo hadn't really been playing his best up until that point. And so once he went down 2 games to all these crazy Sheik combos and stuff, he really realizes like, okay, time to ditch the nerves and just lock in. Because he was really nervous, I think, that he would get last place, 13th. And, you know, you don't want to do that if you're like trying to become the best in the world. Well, he starts fighting back. He's getting crazy reads, crazy, you know, recovery. There's a part where also he lands like the craziest up smash read. He's won 2 games. So he brings it to a game 5. And he's finally, you know, got a chance to win it all. I remember there was one part when he gets knocked down really low and he somehow makes it back. And it was just so shocking to bring it to a last stock scenario. And, you know, Void just goes for the most random combo attempt, and he actually gets the range drop into the up smash. And he's jumping around the room. Spargo looks super disappointed, as one would be when they get last place, especially as such a good player that Spargo is. But he would go on to bounce back. But it just made it such a hype moment, and it was really amazing to watch, in my opinion. That was one of my favorite sets of Summit 6. Okay, now at number 8, we have Scuffed World Tour, MKLeo versus Riddles. Now this set was super kind of shocking because a lot of people, MKLeo had kind of been losing to Riddles at that point. You know, he hadn't taken one off of him in a little bit. And he pulls out the Byleth, and, you know, the first 2 games don't go terribly, but he loses both of them. So in the 3rd game, he's got to make some change, and he does.
Point in time, you can land on
Marth? Wait, he just Leo went Marth.
Oh, the Classico.
He actually picks Marth, the terrible character, but who knows? Maybe he's not that bad, because then MKLeo starts doing really well. He's just comboing Riddles. He's getting all the tippers like easily, and he takes a game. I remember there was a part where this is how broken Kazuya is. He does like a downward angled side B, and Kazuya just armors through it even though he gets hit, and kills him for it. Well, he keeps going, and he takes another one, and this time it's a game 5. So people, like the commentators, I really highly urge you to watch this set, because the commentators are like losing their minds. Like, they can't believe this. And, finally in the last game, MKLeo gets him off the stage, and he gets him with the up air off the top, and it's over. He just won the whole thing. That's just crazy. That's something you don't expect, is to have to fight a Marth, and especially one as good as MKLeo's. But I think that's also what made it so hype, is he doesn't just pull out the Marth all the time. So yeah, it was so unexpected, and it worked. I was really, I remember losing my mind when I watched that live. At number 7, I've got ESAM versus MKLeo at Glitch 8.5. This set is super shocking because, first of all, it's shocking to even see ESAM make it this far. Because at the time he wasn't really considered a top 10 player. Maybe after this event he was, though. And in fact, he was actually on the winner's side of Grand Finals because he had already beat MKLeo earlier in the tournament. But in this set, Leo doesn't even try the Byleth. He just goes straight to the Joker, and it's no funny business, you know? Well, anyways, he beats him the first game, and then ESAM takes one off of him, and ESAM actually takes 2 off of him. So he's 1 away from a win, but he actually SDs on his second stock. So it's looking pretty bad for him, and he even acknowledged it later in an interview. He was like, yeah, I kind of knew I would lose that game, but I was just hoping to bring it back in game 5. Well, he didn't even end up needing to do that, because on the last stock, he ends up getting just the craziest combo I've ever seen in my life on MKLeo, and he takes him literally from 0 to death. He doesn't hit him 1 time after the combo takes place. It's just this long combo. It's so cool, and you don't really see stuff like that other than like in a combo contest or something, but it happened in a real tournament match. And then the best part, in my opinion, is at the end when ESAM's like does the pose, and it's just really cool moment. So yeah, that is going to be number 7. At number 6, I have SkyJ versus Riddles at Collision. Now, for any of you guys who remember this set, it was absolutely nuts because, you know, people didn't even expect SkyJ to make it this far. He upset so many players on the way here. He literally beat Spargo before this. And when the set actually takes place, he's just hitting him with things people have never seen before. Or if they have, it's only on Elite Smash. Because he's just side B'ing like crazy. And it's like hype because it's like dumb, but it's like so crazy also that he's able to make it work. And that takes a lot of skill. And whenever he would get revenge, like the whole crowd would just be losing their mind and they were like, no, like, is he gonna hit it? And there's like a point when he would like hit the up air and then up B and just spike him and Riddles. And he was just like a psycho in that whole tournament, but really in that set. So I remember watching that one live. I was like screaming out loud. Like it was just so fun to watch, and I'd really recommend anybody who hasn't watched it, be sure to check that one out because it's just a shocking event. Even though in the end SkyJ does end up losing, it was still awesome to see Incineroar at such a top level, or just to make it to grand finals anyway is like such a crazy feat to pull off with Incineroar. So that's a big part of the reason it's such a hype moment. Now at number 5, I have Mars versus Dabuz at Genesis. So this is such an insane set because Mars always loses to Dabuz, like every single time. So that's something that we always know to be true, you know, the immovable object. But then Mars always does well at Genesis, so the unstoppable force. So what wins when they collide? Well, Mars always wins. It's Genesis. And but it wasn't easy. The first match goes super close, but then Mars gets like the most psychotic spike I've ever seen in my life. Like, you have to be out of your mind to go for this because it's zero suit. So if you miss, you lose the game. He was on his last stock and he just went for it. And it's like, this guy's a madman, but it worked. Well, then game 2, he gets a down smash. You know, Olimar's now off the stage. He jumps forward, but Olimar tries to recover from underneath. Well, he flip jumps under and down airs the craziest spike, even crazier than the last one. The last one wasn't even crazy compared to this one. The last one, this one makes that one look like, oh, that's just a normal thing. Because this one is like, my brain didn't even realize like that was possible. That like opened up new parts of my brain after seeing that. And I just lost my mind. I still really don't know what to say about that because like you actually have to be a deranged lunatic to go for something like that, and it worked. I do think that's like the most hyped clip of all time. But then that's not the end though. That's only 2 games, you might be thinking. Well, that's because the next 2 games, he gets destroyed by Olimar. He just loses them. And so then you're like, uh-oh, does he not win? Well, in the game 5, he brings it back, he gets the side B, and he gets the dub. And that's the most amazing part, is just for Mars to be able to finally get his win on Dabuz after like 7 consecutive losses. He didn't beat him for like 2 years, and then he finally got it at Genesis to keep moving on to the bracket. And it was just so amazing, and it was on the French stream, which made it the best thing ever because the French commentators are the best. And so yeah, it was just you know, a sick moment, and I'll never forget that. At number 4, I have MKLeo versus Proto Banham at Double Down in Grand Finals. Now, I had 2 sets to pick from at Double Down, and they're both amazing in my opinion. The first one is obviously the winner's side set, which just after he got bodied by Min Min made it a bit less hype. But this one was so shocking that it's still hype, even though he lost to Min Min. It's because you're like, who is he gonna pick? Everybody's, you know, like, it's super late at night, I remember, and, you know, everybody's just wondering, like, is the Corrin maybe coming back out? Is it gonna be a Byleth, Joker? What are we getting? And then you just hear, Rob! And it's like, what? Huh? And then he just plays Rob, and it's close. Like, they're beating each other every other game. And it's like, how is he able to do this with just every character? Rob, are you kidding me? He doesn't even have a sword. But he's just making it work, and it was beautiful. And, you know, he had just won like a tournament in, I believe, Cuba right before that with Rob. But it wasn't over like too many top like 20 players. I believe like Chag was really the only top level player there. But, you know, just for him to be able to fight with Proto so close with Rob was just an amazing set. Even though he did end up losing, you can't win them all. But I think just the shock factor and the ability to see the MKLeo Rob on the big stage was awesome. And number 3, I have Spargo versus Cola at the Gimvitational. This set is so hype. There's not a dull moment in this set. It starts off with a crazy combo from Spargo. He gets like a down air into finishing touch, and he takes Cola out off the top. And it's like, okay, this is that kind of set. And just to see two sword players just super fast and just boxing each other like that is awesome. Spargo takes the first game, boom. Then you move into the second game. It's pretty close, pretty back and forth, but Spargo gets like an early stock, so it's tough for Cola. Well, as Cola starts making his way back in, too late, knocks him off the stage, double up Bs, and as he's coming down, gets the spike, and it's so sick. And he's just hanging on there by one arm, and Hungrybox is losing his mind.
Oh, you demon! Spargo! You demon!
You just hear ba-na-na-na-na-na-na-na, and it's like, okay, he's about to get the 3-0, you know? And it was not even that shocking because Spargo was just so highly considered at this point. And this was in losers. The loser of this got 7th place. Well, Cola was not having it. So boom, in the next game, he starts fighting back, and then boom, he gets the dub. Okay, I see you, but you know, can you do it again? He said, yes, I can, sir. And he ends up, you know, beating him another game. Now we're going to a game 5. And little did we know, Cola specializes in game 5 because he ends up, you know, bringing it super close, gets the jab, gets the back air, gets the win. And, you know, just for him to close it out, beat Spargo reverse 3-0, and they were going so back and forth the whole set. It was just an amazing set. Literally, there's not one part of it where you're like, this is boring. It's all hype the whole way through. So I would totally recommend watching that one if you haven't seen it. And yeah, it was just crazy too for Spargo to get 7th place. And it wasn't even to anything like gimmicky, you know, it was just Roy. So yeah, that's a crazy moment for sure. Okay, and number 2, this is really a tough one for me because I always like have the debate in my head, is this number 2, is it number 1? But for today's video, I'm gonna say it's number 2. And that is Genesis 7 Grand Finals, MKLeo versus Mars. You know, it was a 3-0, but it felt so close. And each game, they're doing like sick combos against each other. This was still fairly early in the game's lifespan, and it just felt like the peak gameplay at this time. Like, I remember thinking like, people will never get better than this. And still, I'd say to this day, people never really play like they did at this time. You know, they don't still. Because I think the meta has become a lot more defensive. This is definitely the most aggressive it ever was. They were just running up to each other and comboing each other until one of them ran out of lives, you know? And you would just see one like getting hit, and then the other person would mess up one time, nair flip kick, and it's like, boom, that stock's over. And I think just the sheer speed in which it went, and the fact that each like match that would end, the screen would be like so flashy on the game end screen. It was just awesome. And for Mars to take a Genesis off of MKLeo was also a huge thing, because MKLeo was about to win his 4th one in a row, and Mars just took it from him. And so that was super sick to see as well. It was the first Genesis that MKLeo hadn't won in, 4 years. So yeah, I think that was just an amazing tournament. It was great to see. It was cool to see Mars so happy about it. The pop-off was great. The spikes were amazing. And there's just not much more that can be said about it. It's just a great, great set. But I'm not going to give it number 1 in today's video. After some careful consideration, I've changed my number 1. And it is going to be MKLeo versus Tweak, the classic, at Summit 5. Now, MKLeo versus Tweak is obviously the goated rivalry in Smash Ultimate. Everybody knows it. But I think their best set was at Summit 5, and I think it might be the best set ever. Just because the significance it has within the storyline of Smash Ultimate. They've always been rivals, and back pre-quarantine, Leo would always win it every single time. He would bring it back in those reverse 3-0s against Tweak, and Tweak really struggled with that. And I think it put him in a really kind of sad place, because he always wanted to be the best, and he would always get so close and then just have it snatched from him, whether it be Evo or SmashCon or Frostbite or whatever it may be, And then quarantine ends, and Tweak 3-0s him 2 times at Smash Summit 3. But then MKLeo gets his, revenge at Riptide, and he beats him, in Game 5, and then in Grand Finals, he beats him 3-1. And he was just like, I'm back, baby. But then he keeps losing after that to Tweak, and Tweak's got his number. This Diddy Kong can't be beat. And, it almost was getting worse each time he would fight Tweak. Well, then this time, MKLeo and Tweak fight at Summit 5, and the loser gets 7th place, which is not, that's a low placement for either of these guys. Well, MKLeo in the first game goes Pyra Mythra, and he loses. And in the second game, the same thing, and he loses pretty bad. And, he just feels like there's no other option but to switch. He switches to Byleth, and he ends up getting a lot more success. It's super close back and forth game, and, he ends up getting the back air off the side of Town and City to close it out and bring it to a 4th game. Well, the next match is also super close, but it ends up having pretty similar ending with the up B into the back air to bring us to a Game 5. Now, this Game 5 is such a close and back and forth game, and I think that's what a lot of people love about it. There's even a part when MKLeo almost gets it, when he lands a nair and goes for the down smash on Tweak, and Tweak just has to react and spot dodge, and it was amazing. Well, Tweak ends up obviously getting MKLeo off the stage. MKLeo tries to fight back a little bit with like the up air. Tweak doesn't fall for it. Up B, Tweak doesn't fall for it. He just waits. And then right the moment MKLeo gets up, he throws the banana and he goes for the punch, and it's over. And I think just the fact that MKLeo almost reverse 3-0'd him like he always did back in the day, but he wasn't able to, was really a big, great finale, the climax of their rivalry. Because, this was always at a time where they were always fighting for number 1. And I think at this time, neither of them are really in that position where they're close to number 1. or I don't think anybody would call either of them number one at this point of the game's lifespan. So I think that was really the peak, and that is going to be what I'm going to say is the greatest tournament in the history of Smash Ultimate. Be sure to leave in the comments if you guys agree, and thank you guys for watching. Please like and subscribe. See ya.